Good morning, 5th grade. We are ready for math lesson 154 today. We're going to start off with some concept cards this morning. So go right ahead and give me the answers and I will tell you the answer. What does deca mean? 10. Hecto? 100. Kilo? 1000. Milli? 1/1000th. Centa? 1/100th. Deci? 1/10th. 1 peck equals how many quarts? 8. 1 bushel equals how many pecks? 4. 1 pound equals how many ounces? 16. 1 ton equals how many pounds? 2,000. 1 mile equals how many feet? 5,280. 1 mile equals how many yards? 1,760. 1 meter equals how many decimeters? 10. 1 meter equals how many centimeters? 100. 1 meter equals how many millimeters? 1,000. 1 kilometer equals how many meters? 1,000. 1 hectometer equals how many meters? 100. 1 decameter equals how many meters? 10. 1 quart equals how many pints? 2. 1 gallon equals how many quarts? 4. 1 pint equals how many cups? 2. 1 tablespoon equals how many teaspoons? 3. 1 cup equals how many fluid ounces? 8. 1 pint equals how many fluid ounces? 16. Now let's go over place value here. So this is the ones place, just read these with me. We have ones, tens, 100, 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, and million. 1 score equals how many years? 20. 1 decade equals how many years? 10. 1 leap year equals how many days? 366. 1 year equals how many weeks? About 52. 1 yard equals how many inches? 36. 1 square foot equals how many square inches? 144. 1 square yard equals how many square feet? 9. 1 square mile equals how many square acres? Who remembers this one? Or not square acres, just acres, because it is like it's squared. 640. And 1 acre equals how many square feet? 43,560. Okay, grab a piece of paper and a pencil, and we're going to go through some fractions here, and I want you to write the fractions as a decimal. So a piece of paper and a pencil. Write this fraction as a decimal. You should have 0.001 or 1,000th. 0.009, 9,000th. 0.139 or 139,000th. Let's just move on here to a couple others. Write this one as a decimal. You should have 0.21 or 2100th. This is hundredths, so you need 2 places, but you only have a 7, so it should be 0.07 or 700th. What about this one? You should have 0.01, and this one, 0.1 or 1/10. Okay, our lesson today, we are annexing zeros when dividing. So I have a couple problems here on the board. Now, first of all, let's just go ahead and start dividing them, and then we'll talk about the concept here that we're learning today. So I have 52 divided by 8. So let's go ahead and divide that. 8 goes into 52 6 times here. So we have 8 times 6 equals 48. So we subtract, and we're left with 4. Now, we could just write our remainder as a fraction or as a remainder. If we would write it as a fraction, it would be 4/8, which would also equal 1/2. But if we do that, our problem doesn't terminate, or it doesn't divide out evenly. Now, our lesson today, annexing zeros, is so that we can use that so that our division problems can terminate, or they can divide out evenly, instead of being left with a fraction or a remainder. So just look at this here with me for a little bit. As you see, there is no decimal point in our problem right now, but every number, like whether or not it shows a decimal point, they all have a decimal point, whether or not we can see it. So if there's not a decimal point in the number, it would just be right after the whole number. Okay, and it doesn't change anything. Also, you can add as many zeros after a decimal point as you want to, and it doesn't change anything either. So, like I said, some numbers have a decimal point that you can see, others have one that you cannot see. And whether or not we add more zeros after that, honestly, we can add as many as we want, and it doesn't change our answer. The job of the decimal point is to separate the whole number from the decimal part. So when we have a whole number, like I said, the decimal point would always just be the whole way to the right. Now, so if we want to add a decimal point here, if we want to have this problem terminate or divide out evenly, we're going to have to do what is called annexing zeros. So because our invisible decimal point is here, we're going to actually just place a decimal point there. And then because we can add zeros and it doesn't change the value, we're going to go ahead and add a 0 here. Now, the reason that we're doing this is because we want to make our problem divide out evenly. And if we add a 0, we can now bring that 0 down. And now we can go 40 divided by 8. Okay, does 8 divide evenly into 40? Yes, it does. So 40 divided by 8 is 5. Now, 8 times 5 equals 40. So if we subtract 40 here, left with 0, and our problem terminated. It divided out evenly. Now, because we have a decimal point in our dividend, we have to put our decimal point in our quotient right above where it is in the dividend. And this is our final answer, 6 5/10. Okay, so let's just go over that again with this problem here. Just give yourself a little time to get the hang of this, and I think you'll be able to do it pretty well. So we have 17 divided by 4. 4 goes into 17 4 times, so we're going to write 4. 4 times 4 equals 16. So we're going to subtract here, left with 1. Now, we could write this as a remainder or a fraction, but that's not what we want to do here. We want our problem to terminate or to divide out evenly. So, in order to do that, again, this is our whole number, and it has an invisible decimal point here, so we're just going to place that decimal point there so that we can add another 0, and it doesn't change the value, okay? So now, we can bring down this 0 and divide again. Okay, that's why we're adding a 0 so that we can keep dividing until it comes out evenly. And we can only do that without changing the value if we put our decimal point there. That was already there, but it was just invisible. So we have 10 divided by 4 equals 2. Now, this did not divide out evenly yet. I'm running my problems together here. I have a 2 down here. So I have a 2 right here. So it didn't divide out evenly yet, but remember we can add as many zeros here as we want to. It doesn't change the value as long as we put our decimal point there. So we're going to bring this 0 down now. I have a 20 here. I'm sorry, this is getting full. 20 divided by 4 equals 5. So we have 5 times 4. Okay, I'm just going to erase this. We have 5 times 4 equals 20. So now, did it divide out evenly? Yes, it did. We're left with nothing. And we need to put our decimal point in our quotient, the same place that it is in the dividend. Okay? So, your rule for today's lesson, at the top of your page, if you do not want a remainder in your fraction, you need to annex zeros and add your decimal point until the problem comes out evenly. Let me know if you have any questions about this. But go ahead and in your dividend, after the whole number, place your decimal point, add zeros there that you can bring down until your answer comes out with no remainder. Let's just go over our formulas quickly here. I have a square here with a side of 2.7 yards. So because it's a square, if we're finding the perimeter, how are we going to do that? Perimeter is the length around it, and it has 4 sides, and because it's a square, they're all the same. So remember, the formula for that would be P equals 4 times S. Now, what about if we're finding the area? That's the square units. We could count the square units inside of it, but that would take too long. So instead, we can go the side times the side, and that will give us the area. So to find the area of our square, we go area equals S times S, because on a square, again, the sides are the same. Now, if we would have a rectangle, that was what my other dimensions were for here. I had 90 feet as the length and 50 feet as the width. So if we're finding the perimeter of a rectangle, we have 2 sides of lengths that are the same, and our 2 widths are the same. So we're just going to go P equals 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. And if we're finding the area of our rectangle, it would take long to count every square unit, so we can just multiply the length of a side by the width of the other side. So our formula for finding the area of a rectangle is A equals length times width. Okay? Thank you for listening. Please let me know if you have any questions about your lesson today. Work carefully, and I will see you in language class.